Hey everybody, and welcome to Elden Dogs, your favorite podcast about Elden Ring and missable items in Elden Ring. I am your host, Brad, also known as Sir Gideon Ofnir. I sit around in my library, I pretend to know more than everybody, and luckily, wonderful people come say hi to me sometimes. Speaking of, we're joined by a wonderful guest. We are joined today by Dom's Roundtable. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Could you tell some of our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I love what you did with the Gideon Ofnir thing. So I would say for me it would be Iron Fist Alexander, because I am insanely clumsy and frequently get myself into sticky situations. But I always face my trials and tribulations with a positive attitude and a smile on my face.
Did you bring the oil? I need some oil.
always got some oil. So I'm the owner of Dom's Roundtable YouTube channel and Twitch and Twitter and every other single social media we're forced to be on in this day and age. But yeah, primarily YouTube is the only one I'm actually any good at sticking to consistently. Started off with, originally, it was actually going to be a horror channel. I love horror. And I realized the horror niche was way more niche than I thought, because a lot of people are scared of horror.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought, right?
Here I am just falling asleep to The Shining every night.
So I then delved into a 4v1 multiplayer game called Dead by Daylight, because that's got horror elements, but it's more accessible because it's not inherently scary. Did that over on Twitch, and that was going pretty well for me. But the end game, when you're at the top ranks, is very, very sweaty, and I play games to have fun. So I wasn't enjoying that anymore. Plus, I've always been more of a fantasy, medieval magic man. And offline, I was really enjoying an open world RPG called Mountain Blade Bannerlord. So I then decided to switch over to that, both with Twitch, and then that's when I introduced YouTube. And that was doing pretty damn well, actually, making guides on Bannerlord, doing Let's Plays on Bannerlord. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. Let me just check my notes.
So there is, you mentioned that you love horror, and you also mentioned that you love fantasy. And this video game comes out that is very much a horror video game, and it's steeped in fantasy. I think people undervalue Elden Ring as a piece of horror content, because a lot of the concepts in Elden Ring are just horrifying. You can't die, like you're killed 1,000 times and you just sit there because you keep coming back to life.
Yes.
These nobles are wandering around. They left the capital. They're just skinning gods out here now. They're so bored. Went to a music festival. Who knows what's happening? But as you were saying, YouTube is how I found you. And it was because I was just, you go to YouTube and you look up, I need to know where to find every item in this location in Elden Ring. And it's part of like what I was up to at the time. And Elden Ring is where you really started to kind of carve out a little spot of YouTube for yourself.
Yeah,
right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So that's what I was attempting to get at. Thank you so much for getting me there. So I was actually ready to give up on YouTube. I thought, okay, I've done that. It's gone all right, but I want to focus on my work now. And then without getting too dark, too deep, we'll try and keep this as light as possible. I was having a really horrible time in my personal life, really horrible time, predominantly with work. And I was actually signed off on long-term mental illness. And it was at that time that Elden Ring came out, and my wife was still working full-time. In fact, she'd picked up extra hours for us to help cover while I got my head together and just helped myself. So I just dove into Elden Ring, literally all hours of every day. I completed it in the first week with 122 hours played. I literally played 16 hours a day.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Nothing else.
That sounds about like my first week, though. I did take a couple little breaks here and there, but it's an easy game to fall into for sure.
Yeah. And that was the escape for me. It was the initial thing that drew me in, aside from the fact I was always already a massive Dark Souls fan, was the escapism, like literally from the situation I was in my life. And I completed it. And I thought, right, I've kind of given up on YouTube for a while for this point. I haven't done a video for a couple of months, but I thought I really, really, really don't want to go back to that toxic work environment. I desperately want to try to make something of this. I'm probably one of the first people to complete it. I know loads about the game now, let's do a guide on the starter area. And it exploded. So I thought, oh, damn, okay, let's do a guide on the next area. And that exploded. And I was like, holy crap, okay, let's just do a guide on the whole game.
Absolutely. I was going and looking through all these different content creators I'd never heard or seen before. And so many of them, they just come in so hot and they want to talk about themselves. And what you have that's nice is a very wonderful voice, a pleasing voice.
Oh, thank you so much.
You do a really great job. And yeah, you definitely stuck out. So you said you're a Dark Souls fan as well. Did you also play Bloodborne and Sekiro? Have you played all the Soulsborne games?
All of them. I have to say my favorite is Bloodborne because I enjoy the quick-paced combat, but more so than that, like I was saying at the start, I'm a horror game fan, so I really like the dark aesthetic, the gothic, the blood. Oh, it really appeals to me. I love it.
This style of video game, the Souls style of game is... I avoided it for a long time because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the joy of punishment.
yeah.
And eventually I did come around. Bloodborne took a while because that was the first one that I played. But once it clicked, once I beat Gascoigne, all of a sudden everything fell into place. Another one of my major passions and loves is George R.R. Martin. I love his works. So Elden Ring is like, all right, first we have cosmic horror in this style of game, but now we have George R.R. Martin in this style of game. So it was, it seemed like a game specifically made for me, which I'm sure everybody feels because it's, such an open game. But what is your favorite aspect of Elden Ring? Are you there primarily for the gameplay, for the open world, the combat, the lore? What really draws you into the game?
I love this question. This is amazing because there are so many different answers to this question. Everyone loves it for so many different reasons, and there's no wrong answer. It's amazing. For me specifically, I mean all of it, but if I had to pick one, it's going to be the gameplay. And I'm really glad you asked about this because it's a point that I'm really passionate about. So many games nowadays basically have kind of taken that always online mentality and forced it into single player games as well, with so many daily quests and weekly quests and forced collectible grinds and all of that stuff. Elden Ring strips all of that back and says, look, we just want to make a good game and you go play it how you want. We're not going to force any of it upon you. And I love that. I love that so much.
The sheer number of different builds and ways to go about combat. I have this horrible habit when I play video games to fall into, all right, a stealth archer or, big guy with a sword. And I always try and make myself like branch out. So after my first playthrough, I started 5 new characters because that's what you do when you beat a video game.
Of course. Yeah.
And one of them, I'm like, all right, this one is this really dumb dude who just loves the Golden Order and he only uses incantations. And then there's just like this, she's a witch and she's all about the bad stuff. And there's one guy, he's the scum of the earth. He finds whatever person he finds, he essentially just kills him for no reason because he's scum. And it's brought even more joy out of the game because I'm trying different approaches to things and approaches to situations because there is so much depth and just the NPC quests there. I just love that the world breathes and feels real because you can miss stuff and the world kind of keeps moving around you. How many times have you beaten the game now?
Oh, countless. One reason for that is I actually did a challenge run attempt recently on stream on YouTube. I started doing some YouTube streaming to balance out to go along with the videos, and I basically tried to see how many times I could beat the game in a 12-hour period.
Yeah. Oh God.
I ended up, I really screwed myself. I thought, okay, it's not going to take too long to do the setup of like New Game Plus Zero because I know the game so well now and it's a speed run. So I'm going to miss all the optional areas, grab everything I need for my build and just get to the end. That first run took 8.5 hours.
Oh, God.
Which is still quick for an Elden Ring run. Like, you're talking 100 to 200 hours for some people. So 8.5 hours to beat the whole game and get a fully maxed out, very powerful build. Nice. Every subsequent run I was doing in between 20 to 30 minutes. So I did manage to beat the game 5 further times in that last, 3.5 hour segment.
Yeah. Are you much of a lore person when you play? Or are you kind of just like hammered into like the gameplay?
So I didn't used to be. For any game, really. I was all about the gameplay. And for that reason, I don't really get on with the likes of God of War. Like the new one, Ragnarok, don't get me wrong, amazing game. Absolutely amazing game. I'm not shitting on it at all. But it likes to chuck so much story and lore at you before it lets you actually experience the game.
Yeah.
I want to decide if I like a game's combat and mechanics. Give me a little bit of time playing with my weapons and stuff. And if I like that, then chuck the lore at me. Then I'll decide whether I want to get immersed or not.
You're saying you don't want to watch a scene for an hour and then have one button prompt? I just started playing God of War Ragnarok last week, and I loved God of War 2018 in my mind. But after playing this one for a while, I was like, this is not a good video game. And which made me feel like I was betraying gamers everywhere, but it's just who I am. I want to play my games, and it's beautiful. It'd make a great Netflix series. It'd make a great movie or something. And the world design, the acting, they're all great, but give me something that I can play. And that's one thing I love about Elden Ring and the Souls games is you're always plugged in to the point of where, oops, I accidentally stabbed someone. And
it makes me so happy to hear you say that, because I do feel whenever I voice that opinion that I'm going to get burnt at the stake. Because I'm not saying it mean. I'm not shitting on the franchise, but it's just that approach just isn't for me.
We've made an agreement a long time ago with Melina. She wants us to take her to the Leyndell Royal Capital, and this has been kind of what we were. I mean, I've had a million times playing the game where I get to somewhere, I'm like, that's it. This is the end of the game. Or I'm like, I'm finally here. And it turns out I just got to Royal Capital. Because it's intense, but you finally get up to the Altus Plateau. Yeah. And then you see the capital. And I remember distinctly feeling this was going to be
End game. Yeah, it feels like that.
The capital is such a crazy, huge, legacy dungeon, too.
Right in the middle of the map. As soon as you open your map, once you've got the map fragment and discovered the outskirts and the capital, you look at that, you think, this is the end. I'm at the Royal Capital. This is the end of the game. And you're not disappointed, because it's been a long run up to that point. Already, this is a massive game. You're not getting to the Royal Capital till 40 to 60 hours in. Just to backtrack really, really quickly, talking about the size of the game and about getting to Royal Capital that first time. Even in Limgrave, I had that feeling. I opened the map and I thought, oh, okay, it's not the biggest in the world. We'll see how we go. And then you find your first map fragment and the map doubles in size. And then you find your second one, and the map doubles in size again. And you're like, okay, you can stop now. This is getting enormous.
Well, and one thing they do is those way gates. I forget where the waygate is that sends you to the Royal Capital.
Yes.
It might be from way south in the Weeping Peninsula, where it sends you up to fight that golem.
Yes, in the Tower of Return in the Weeping Peninsula, yes.
Yeah, and that shows you're like, oh, fuck. Look at how, that's too far away. That's too far away. And it's still even more. And it's just, it's kind of breaks your mind in such a good way. I haven't had that feeling with games in a while, where it's just like you're at a buffet and I am just eating the best food in the world, and they just keep bringing more food to the buffet, and I somehow, I didn't do 116 hours or whatever it was my first week. 2 weeks though. 2 weeks. I'm not good at pacing myself either.
No.
Leyndell's locked up pretty tight. You come on the outskirts, and there's a few dungeons. I didn't find many of the dungeons in the outskirts to be super special. At least, on the north side, there's some good stuff. But the first thing that really struck me at this point, I got to Altus Plateau, and I was terrified of everything because I was thinking these guys were stronger than me. So I was probably having like 50 dudes just chasing after me.
Just running past them all.
And I'm charging up this road, and then all of a sudden, Margit shows up.
Yes.
My first nightmare. What was your first thought when this horrifying fell omen descended again?
You mean when in the guise of the normal enemy, the commoner? Yeah, I loved it. I love stuff like that. I love the surprises they put in them games. Yeah, it was. You know what? I can't remember if he did wreck me or not. That in the Leyndell outskirts, but I must say it felt really good having a rematch, having round 2. Like, I was like, right, I'm so much stronger now. If you've got the same stats you had back in Stormvale Castle, you are dead.
He hasn't really learned anything either.
No, the moveset's still the same.
Same moveset, plus you have Torrent, which anytime you throw the horse in, the spectral horse or whatever he's a horsey boy. Whenever you throw Torrent in with a boss fight, it's infinitely easier. But yeah, it was interesting to have Margit show up again. I didn't realize that Margit wasn't dead.
Yes. It's funny you say, though, that when you throw a horse in, that the combat comes easier, because I disagree. I suck on horseback.
Yeah.
Even the horses, even the bosses, one that's just outside of the Royal Capital itself that we'll come to in a minute. Even the bosses on horses themselves that you feel like are going to be easier if you're also on your horse, I still find them easier on foot.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just play styles.
I think that I convince myself that it's easier, and then I die 50 times on the horse, and eventually I just start doing regular dodge attacks. But it's not even a fun way to play a game, is you just charge up, hit them once, and you just like ride off. Yeah. Chug some potion and get back to it. But did anything in the outskirts really stick out to you? Any of the dungeons or tombs or anything?
You know what? I blitzed through the outskirts so quickly, especially in my first run. I think, like you, I was at the point in the game that you get with every Souls game, where I was so terrified. So you make the mistake of just, right, okay, I just need to get to the next area as quick as possible. So I just blitzed through the outskirts and desperately tried to smash my face against the Royal Capital until it would let me in.
Yeah.
And when you get into that trap, you're just making things harder for yourself. The more you skip because you're scared of it, the more underleveled you'll be for the next area, and it's just a vicious cycle. So when I went back, and to answer your question, when I actually went back and visited the outskirts properly, it's definitely one of the later dungeons that you find, but the Orisa Hero's Grave, I love how brutal the chariots are. I think they're such a great mechanic because I am a masochist.
Oh, man. Yeah. I have had so many ups and downs with those chariots where one time I think it is the dumbest, worst thing in the game. And then other times, once you figure it out, then it's like, all right, I got it. But they're brutal. They're like, one shot kill you.
Yep.
You're right, though. That Hero's Grave, it might be my favorite. There's three heroes' graves, 3 or 4.
Yes, I think there's 3. Yeah, there's 3 with chariots at least for sure.
Yeah, and this one, I definitely learned a lot from watching your video, because there is so many items in here and so many paths that I missed my first time through it.
Oh God, same. The looking at the item list, the Crucible Feather Talisman, I believe, is something that I missed even on my Things You Missed video. I don't recall that being in there. And I only found out about the Crucible Feather Talisman from watching speedruns, because it increases your dodge roll.
And that's something that they probably love.
Yes, exactly. Because obviously they're going to be really underleveled, so they practically at that point are doing a no-hit run. So the increased iframes are literally lifesavers. So I think that's the only reason reason I even found out about that talisman.
So I was doing a thing maybe about a month ago. I'm getting ready for New Game Plus. I haven't done any New Game Plus yet.
No way, really?
And I haven't, and I have my one mega character who I beat the game with.
Yes.
And I want the DLC to come out so I can play through the DLC in the first one and then jump into New Game Plus. But what I have done is gone and collected every single weapon, armor, talisman.
Perfect. Same.
I recently watched your video of things to get before New Game Plus.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
And checklist, got all of them. And that sucked. Like, some of those drops are mean.
Yeah.
And I think the worst one was in the castle in the north of the mountaintops of the giants.
Castle Sol with Commander Nile.
They have the variation of one of the knights, the Exile Knights has a variation of the armor.
The banished armor, yes.
Like, not altered. Because the altered one is one you find, and the non-altered one you only can get there, and the dude is so mean. So I was going through that, and that took me trying to collect all the armors and stuff. It took me back into the hero's grave. You actually have to destroy 3 chariots in a there might be a couple ways to do it, but the way that I did it was like you follow a certain path and they wind up running into each other.
Yes. It's funny. I literally released a video yesterday that goes through my top gameplay tips for beginners to the game, because I imagine just after the holiday season, a lot of new people have probably got it. And I talk about the shackles, because you can, from pretty much the very first room, if you stand in the right place, you can make all 3 of them chariots collide before you even step foot in the dungeon. It just trivializes that whole dungeon.
Oh, I love that.
It's
and
amazing.
The shackles affect the chariots because you use them and it blows the chariot up. Is that what happens?
Basically, what it is you trigger a pressure plate which teleports one of the chariots into the line of the other 2.
Okay. Yeah, it's great that you mentioned Margit Shackle as well. That is to lore wise. Do you know what the shackle is from? Why it exists?
Not specifically, so please tell me.
So Morgott and Moog, they are twin brothers. They are the children of Marika and Godfrey. They are the second and third kids. Godwin was the pretty star quarterback brother. And do you watch Game of Thrones? Have you read those books at all?
Love it, yeah.
Morgott and Moog are essentially like Tyrion Lannister to an extent. I always think of these in kind of like Song of Ice and Fire terms, but they were born as Omen and shunned by the royal capital. So the Omen, if you're a royal Omen, they're put down into the sewers. That's where they have to live because, sorry, we're ashamed of you, but you're royalty, so we're not going to just like cut your horns off or get rid of you. And the shackles are there to imprison them. That's why the shackles, that's why they have powers over Morgott and Mogwin.
Yes.
Yeah, they go by so many names too. Margit, Moog, Mogwin. But the shackles were created to trap the Omen. Those 2 are interesting as brothers. One of them became the best, like virtuous, like I'm just going to be a good person despite being shit on my whole life. The other one is I'm going to steal a baby and become a god. And it's two sides of the same coin. But getting back to the hero's grave, definitely one of my favorite spots in the outskirts. You also get some spirit ashes, the vulgar militia ashes, which any time that you can summon a small group of enemies, I use ashes a lot to just distract so I can do my own stuff. So if they can take the aggro away from some of that, but gosh, you get the tree sentinel set when you destroy the sentinels. That's a beautiful set of armor. Yes,
it is. It also has one of the toughest bosses in the game, though. I mean, any duo boss is going to be horrible. Even one solo Crucible Knight is brutal. You got to face 2 of them. Like, what the fuck?
Hate it. Those Crucible Knights are cruel. Ordovis, I think, might be the head of the Crucible Knights. I forget the lore there, but yeah, this one dungeon you get Ordovis's greatsword, the Crucible axe armor, dope, and you also get the golden epitaph weapon.
Yes, right at the start of the dungeon, that is. So even if you don't want to brave this dungeon, the golden epitaph is an incredible faith weapon, and you can grab it without needing to go through it, because it's behind a stone sword key statue right at the start, right by the grave site.
Yep, and that's one of those items that when you use it, it stops enemies, like the skeletons, from getting back up. So kill them once.
A funny story about them. So I've always known in all Souls games they have a really, really nitpicky way of letting undead stay dead. And I had no idea in this one. For literally, no joke, the entirety of my first playthrough, I did not kill an undead enemy because I couldn't figure out how to do it. I didn't realize that all of that glowing white stuff that came off them when they went down meant you had to hit them just one final time to keep them dead.
Yep, just like kick them in the face or just shank them while they're down. Next to the hero's grave is, I think, one of the worst dungeons in probably the whole game, in my opinion, the Ariza side tomb.
This is the one with all the teleporty bullshit, isn't it? You have like three or four levels that look identical. And you go down the first couple of flights of stairs, and at the end of like a chapel-looking room, there's one teleporter, and then you go down some more stairs, and there's another teleporter, and oh my god, and yeah. Fuck that place.
In the first playthrough, I'm one of those guys that will refuse to use a guide, and I don't want to look stuff up.
Yeah, yes.
But I was playing this one, and I said, no, I don't care. Fuck this one, because I wasn't sure if I was doing the same thing over and over, and didn't love that at all.
When making the Things You Missed video specifically for that grave, for the Orisa side tomb, it's my wife that does all my editing for me, and
nice.
Basically, obviously, I will fumble my way through, and she will cut out all of the failed paths. So that section of the video was still a long one. That took like half the goddamn video. But it was basically the raw footage I gave her was like 45 minutes long. And she came down and she's like, Dom, fuck you. I cannot believe you're going to make me edit this down into 5 minutes.
Love you, babe. Yeah, not a fun spot at all.
No, it's and there's a reward. Okay, yeah, the jars are really fun, but like they're not that good. They're super fun.
It's if you're wanting to go for like a jar playthrough, because you can wear the jar in your head and you can summon the little jars. I get it. That could be a thing. There is the Hermit Merchant Shack. I just wanted to mention one really cool thing there. That torch you get, the Sentry's Torch, is something I think people they don't look at enough. Because when you equip it, it allows the player to see enemies that are normally invisible.
Yes.
So anytime you're fighting something you can't lock onto, this will make them always visible and allows you to fight them normally. And also, I think it was in your video where you said if you have it passively equipped, or maybe I was watching another video. The Sentry's Torch.
That was my most recent one. Yes, so you don't actually need to be holding it in your hand. It can just be on your back, two-handing your primary weapon. The effect still counts. Yeah,
which is great.
And taking that one step further, one of the enemies, obviously it counters all the Black Knife assassins, and one of them, specifically in the Sage's Cave in the Altus Plateau, who drops the Concealing Veil, which gives players the same effect as the Black Knife assassins. This torch counters that as well.
Oh, yes.
So you'll also reveal invisible players, which is amazing.
This, lore-wise, this torch was created because of the Black Knife assassins. After Godwyn got assassinated in the Night of the Black Knives, they created this torch like, we just got to make sure no one invisible is coming around here anymore.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's why it was created.
Going back to you asking me if I was a lore guy at the start of the video, I realized I went off on such a rant. I never finished my point that I've never really been a lore guy in games. I've always been gameplay focused. But Elden Ring has sucked me in so much that I have started to delve into the lore. I'm definitely late to the party, but there are many great lore YouTubers out there that I watch religiously now. And that is an amazing fact that I didn't know. And there's
so much. The little things. Just like, this throwaway item. I'm like, wait a second, guys. I just watched a 20-minute video on this item.
Yes.
It might be the biggest thing.
And I love getting immersed in video games. So as soon as you explained that tidbit to me, I was then envisioning all of the Leyndell Knights standing guard at the entrances to the capital with these torches in their hands. Yep. Like you say, specifically looking to make sure that the Knight of the Black Knives does not happen again. And it just gives me shivers. Like, I wish we could actually go and experience that. That is awesome.
Yeah, so don't miss that at the Hermit Merchant Shack, but there is one NPC in the outskirts I did want to mention, the Blackguard, Big Boggart. What a name. He's down there. If you bought prawns from him before, he is now here selling boiled crabs. This guy was a little sketchy to me at first. Turns out he's just a homie.
It will be forever a mark on my reputation.
What did you do?
I advised people during my first time in Liurnia to kill this guy.
Oh, no.
Because I thought he was worthless, and it saved you the 1,000 or 2,000 runes needed to buy Raya's necklace. And yeah. I regret that so hard. He is one of the coolest bros in existence. I love him to bits. And like you say, boiled crabs, so powerful. Like one of the best items in the game. And you can purchase them endlessly. It is amazing. They're not even limited. And
he was right to be, he's like, I don't know, maybe that's Raya. What, Raya is her name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He's like, maybe she's sketchy. She was a snake in hindsight.
Yes, true.
Yeah, the Big Boggart, we're going to talk about him more in a later episode when we talk about the Dung Eater, but he spent a lot of time in a cell with the Dung Eater, and he just says, stay away from that dude. And this episode, we are not going into sewers this episode. We're going to put that off as long as we can. But to get into the capital, there is one big mean motherfucker on a horse, and probably one of the toughest like things in the game for me. Like, this boss really stumped me for a while. The Draconic Tree Sentinel.
Before we move on to him, taking it back to the Hermit's Merchant Shack, there was one thing we didn't mention, and that is what happens at night. An equally scary boss. The merchant is replaced with one of the infamous bell-bearing hunters. Oh my god, I loathe these guys. What did you just say?
I don't like these guys.
Oh, good. I thought you said I like them.
Well,
no one likes them.
They're the bell-bearing hunter, Elimer of the Briar. So that's all.
Oh, he's the main dude. Yeah.
Well, I think they're all supposed to be the same bell-bearing hunter lore-wise, because you fight him in the shaded castle. Yeah, the bell-bearing hunters, they show up at night, and I was thinking maybe they're associated with the merchants because the merchants just disappear, but I think maybe the merchants are smart enough to get the fuck out of there before they show up.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, this one isn't the meanest one, though. The meanest bell-bearing hunter is Caelid.
For sure, yeah.
My grossly over-leveled, overpowered guy struggled with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of those things before a New Game Plus. You want the bell bearings that they have because those will carry over to the new game.
Yes. As with all of them, smithing stones, somber smithing stones, yeah, definitely.
The Draconic Tree Sentinel, and this is also something that happens in these games. So first time I played online. So there'd be messages, strewn about everywhere. And I didn't notice the ones that were actually put there on purpose. I wasn't looking for the different colors. So you can actually summon 2 different NPCs to fight with you for this battle, something that I completely missed, unfortunately, my first playthrough because I could have used some help.
Yeah.
But, you can summon Millicent and the Great Horned Tragoth. Millicent, you have to get her the prosthesis.
Yeah.
At the crazy midsummer village. And Great Horned Tragoth is just a homie. He's just going to show up to fight and help you out wherever. But
he is amazing.
And, sorry, I need your armor, but I will kill you at some point.
Yeah, for sure. It is a shame. It is a shame that most NPCs end up dead by your hand because you want their stuff. But
I'll make sure they're happy before I go back and like, all right, we had fun. You should go to bed now. The Draconic Tree Sentinel, though, is the only way to get into the capital. You need to also have 2 runes as well. To have defeated 2 of the the children, the demigods.
There is a way to bypass him through the deep-root depths.
No shit.
Once met at the capital outskirts, the Draconic Tree Sentinel boss can be skipped by travelling to Leyndell via a waygate in the Prince of Death's throne room in the deep-root depths.
I'm happy there's another way in there.
Basically, where you fight Fear's champions. So you need to be doing Fear's questline.
Holy shit. So you have to do a lot.
Yes. So,
Okay.
so admittedly, you do have to do a lot. And arguably, it's potentially even harder. But if you are someone that is truly scared of the Tree Sentinels, there is a way around him.
I'm scared of everything a little bit. And since this one is a Draconic Tree Sentinel, it does have dragon powers and dragon shields and dragon claws and can use electricity.
Honestly, the Draconic Tree Sentinel, I imagine when he was a kid, he always picked Ryu on Street Fighter and just spammed Hadouken and nothing else. Because
I got my move.
Honestly, because if you're literally, he's like, right, I found out the button combination for the OP move, and I'm just going to spam it and spam it. Because if you're a certain distance away from him, he's just like fireball, fireball, Hadouken, Hadouken, Hadouken. That's all he does. Just chill, bro.
It's not even fun playing with you, dude. Yeah, cheese that motherfucker if you can. Get him to go down.
Yeah. Tragoth's your best friend in that fight. He's amazing.
Yeah. It took me a while, but getting through there did happen. We arrive into the capital finally, and at the first sight of Grace that you stop at, Melina does arrive, and she.
Yes.
This is one of those things where I know that I missed a lot of Melina talking at sights of Grace.
Yes.
Because sometimes they're not forced on you. This is one that I believe is, but a lot of times they're just like talk with Melina at the bottom, and I'm like, I am doing something.
And they're not always at key sites of Grace either. You have to make sure you do visit every single one, or it's very easy to miss out on some of her lore, like you say, some of her conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. But she says the accord is fulfilled and she will leave you now. You got her to the Royal Capital, but the first time that I came to that first vista when you come out of the hallways and seeing the amount of buildings, the giant dragon sprawled out.
Oh my God.
It was a terrifying feeling, especially for someone who's a completionist, where I need to look in every. I will not rest until I look in every corner, and it's hard to even start anywhere when there's so much to do. But what was your first experience coming into the capital?
Oh my God. You've pretty much summed it up. My advice to anyone who hasn't been there yet is make sure you rest at the site of Grace and make sure that you set the time to afternoon. The sun isn't quite at its peak in morning, and night is just no good. You want to make sure your first time out through that door, seeing the dragon and seeing the sprawling golden city, is at afternoon, because the sun is right above you and it is just glorious. It was genuinely awe-inspiring, and it goes back to what we said right at the start. This is when I truly thought, okay, this must be Endgame now. There is no way they can top this. This is just too awesome. This must be it.
And do they top it again? I don't know. There's some really great things. Fighting a giant on the mountaintops. That was a moment. The Holly Tree was a moment, but I don't know if there was anything bigger than the Royal Capital, a stone dragon. And yeah, there's just so much to it. I remember the first time I found the sewers, just really regretting that I found it.
Well, I loved it so much. To give you a little bit of insight into the Things You Missed series, for anyone that was following along episode to episode will have noticed that I skipped a bit of Liurnia and all of the Altus Plateau and went straight to the Royal Capital. And that's because in my own playthrough, I'd already got there a good few weeks before, and I loved it so much that I didn't want to keep people waiting. I wanted to release that episode as soon as possible because I just adored it. And so many people at the time were like, hang on, you haven't done this and this and this. And I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I did it out of sequence because I just love this place so much. I needed to share it with you.
Yeah. How many different videos do you have covering just Leyndell? The capital.
I actually think
2 or 3?
you know what? I actually think I packed it all into one massive, like 30-minute episode.
Okay, make some popcorn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But any of the videos where I did make 2, 3, or in regards to the consecrated snowfields, even 4 parts, my wife has very kindly gone through, cut out all of the fluff and combined into a supercut, so you can watch them all in one big long episode if that's your preferred way to watch.
Yeah. Problem is, my brain can't retain all this stuff.
Same.
I watch your videos in 10-second increments, pause it, go do something, and then get right back to it. But yeah, the capital is amazing, and I love your advice for the afternoon. I hadn't thought of that. Very cool tip. But this is the once sprawling metropolis. This is the seat of power for the Golden Lineage, once was. And this was where America ruled. This was kind of where all America. But America has fallen on hard times. No one likes America anymore. Now I don't know what we're talking about anymore. But yeah, this was the capital of the continent here, and this was the seat of power for a time, anyways. I don't know. They're fuzzy on the timelines. I'm not sure how long it actually was around, but long enough to be this giant cityscape. The giant dragon you see there, that's the corpse of a dragon named Grand Sax. This started the dawn of the war against the dragons. We don't have time for all the lore in the world, but the dragon is there because it attacked the city. The city took it down, but that is the first time that the city walls were breached. And a little bit later down the line, Godwin met a dragon. They became homies. A lot of stuff happens. We don't have time for all that. But the first, I guess the first thing that you really run into here is the Perfumer's Tower, which is a very unique little tower set of rooms. They're very well designed. You don't see this much extra love and care really put into rooms. You do, but this one really stood out to me anyways. Yeah.
Oh God, definitely. It's the amount of detail, the amount of the tapestries and the paintings and the furniture, it must have taken them so long to design every single individual room in the whole of the capital. It is glorious. It really is. You definitely need to appreciate it and take your time here. There is no need and no want to rush anything. Soak it in, enjoy it.
Unless you're getting chased by enemies,
it's fine.
Violently
just
run
soak
away.
It in. Just soak it in and die.
Dodge roll 1,000 times. But the Perfumer's Tower is cool. They actually have all of their equipment for making stuff. It's all hanging out. They have plants and everything. It's like a little storefront too. This is where they would be selling their wares. The perfumers used to be good. Medicine selling good people, but once the war started, they were turned into, all right, if you can make medicine, we need you to make poison. Yeah. And those giant big arrows that are pockmarked all around the Altus Plateau and a little bit in the outskirts, those are actually giant perfume bombs that they sent out to explode and poison the attacking armies. Because as children do, the moment their parents are gone, they all start fighting violently over the TV or the Elden Ring, whatever it is.
That's really cool. I actually did not know that about the perfume bottles. That's awesome.
I need to dabble more in perfumes. I haven't done much with that.
Same. There are some powerful ones, some really powerful aromatics and perfumes that you can craft. It's crazy.
Some really good buffs, but I sadly always fall back on the same few things.
So,
yeah. So where did you come down? Generally, you'll come down the Perfumer's Tower. Where did you kind of start spreading out when you came into the city?
Oh, I really struggle. When the game gives me too much freedom, I just end up running rampant. So I actually came down jumping on the roofs. Before I even got to the Perfumer's Tower, you go past the first few envoy enemies, and I was like, Golden Roof. Oh my god, Golden Roof. I must jump on Golden Roof. So I just jumped from Golden Roof to Golden Roof, killing all the imps, getting all the loot. And I actually jumped down onto the main road, where at the end of it, you will eventually come across one of the avatar enemies. So I ran down, killed him, got that Site of Grace, then went back to the first Site of Grace and finally went down properly through the Perfumer's Tower and actually took the lift and the stairs the second time.
That scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, right, when he just appears.
You know, I am thinking, all right, I'm in the end game dungeon. I'm going up this road, and Erdtree Avatar just jumps down, and I said, nope. And I turned around and ran the other direction, and then there is a Crucible Knight just hanging out, guarding the elevator shortcut. He's kind of not paying attention, but to run from an avatar into a Crucible Knight, I wasn't having a good day at that point. And it's easy to get kind of lost and confused in these buildings, the lower streets and the upper streets. It's not that they don't necessarily all look the same, but there's just so many twists and turns, and it's very easy to get lost.
So many alleys. It's so sprawling. Yeah, I definitely struggled making the things you missed for this episode. It was very hard to tackle because I know everyone's going to take their own route. It's both a blessing and a curse of this game. The fact that it really is, you have so much freedom. And the Royal Capital does that so well. The many different ways you can take to get from point A to point B is just mind-boggling.
You gotta tell your own story when you play these games, right?
Yeah.
If you head down, like, away from the avatar to the I guess it'd be heading north, and there's that one area. That's where you go after this, but there are so many missable items because there's a thing that happens with Leyndell, which I hate. I love the redesign. I love it once it turns into the Ashen Capital, but there are so many one-off items and armors that if you don't get them your first time through, sorry. I guess I've heard you can join another player online if you go into their world and it's still the same Royal Capital from before.
Yes.
But I'm not someone who does multiplayer.
No, and I this is no offense at all to people that do this. Like, I am a massive advocate for play your way, but it feels like cheating. Like they've done that for a reason. You've accidentally locked yourself out of the items. It's fine. You want to play it again anyway because it's amazing. So you're gonna have to go through a New Game Plus and grab that stuff that you didn't get the first time. Yeah,
and especially with NPC quests, you'll have to if you want to get everything. But there are so many items that I was lucky. I got almost all of them the first time through. But
well done.
Yeah, lucky. But yeah, that area there has a misbegotten wielding the Iron Greatsword and is completely missable. But if you head down to the lower streets, there is an ulcerated tree spirit because fuck you. We're throwing it all at you. Sorry, there's also one of these here. This is also where you'll find the entry to the sewers. But one spot that I did want to make note of was the Lower Capital Church. I do love when there is storytelling that is just part of the environment. There's no, you walk through the door, there's no hour cutscene, press circle. Because they could easily do that. The Tarnish opens a door and you see someone, a dead body, sitting on a bed, and you find a deathbed dress next to it. Yeah. And there could be this whole cutscene where you pick up the dress and you look at it, but instead, nope. There's an item there. Pick it up. Figure it out. We're all adults here. Yeah. But this is where you get the Lionel set, which is the famous big boy armor from all the Souls games. I've never used it, but it is a favorite amongst the people.
Actually use it a lot. The Onion Knight, as he's so affectionately called in every Dark Souls game, no matter whether you're talking about Siegmeyer or Siegward or Lionel, the Onion Knight, because he just looks like a giant onion. The set looks ridiculous, But it's the stats are insane, and it's just the fact that you feel part of something bigger than yourself when you wear it, because it's become such a massive part of the Soul series that they always have this character in their games, just like Patches as well. I love it.
Yeah. First time I ran into Patches, I said, "Oh, this
What a
fucking
dick."
Patches is actually he's got a few good things in this game. I guess I was fortunate enough to not have him fuck me over my first playthrough. Because he will try and get you captured in Ray Lucaria, and I didn't have him push me off the cliff in Mount Gelmir, which I think is the big one. Bloodborne was the first time he got me, though, and
when he's a spider, that's my favorite iteration of Patches.
And I got to the point where you could kill him in Bloodborne, and I was like, I think I should kill him, right? And I went online. I'm like, I'm good to kill him. And they're like, he might show up in the Chalice dungeons. Yeah. And I said, I don't want no part of that, and it's not worth it. So buy Patches. But yeah, you find the Lionel set here, and you find a deathbed dress. We'll learn more about deathbed companions when we talk about the endings. But I thought it was a neat little story scene.
Definitely, yeah.
Environmental storytelling.
And gameplay-wise, this room is so crucial because it has a site of grace. You're like, oh my god, finally a checkpoint. Because you've just had to fight the horrible Omen Smirk guy just outside. You've inevitably been fighting loads of enemies beforehand. Depending on the route you've taken to get here, you've gone through an ulcerated tree spirit as well. And it's like, oh my god, a site of grace, thank fuck.
Just cry a little bit in the room.
Yeah, definitely.
I understand why Lionel decided, no, I'll just die in this bed. I'm not going back out. I'm good here. Yeah, the Omen Smirk mask is completely missable as well. That is a one-off that defeating that enemy will get. And, Morgott, he is the Veiled Monarch right now. He is an Omen, but he is so dedicated to preserving the Erd Tree and protecting the Golden Order that he still uses Omen killers. And it's like, all right, that's saying that someone hates podcasters and I still invite him to my birthday party or something. I guess you can come, but you have openly declared war against my people. But we'll let it slide this one time. There's a really tough, little tough path on the upper streets too, where there is a lot of like tougher knights, and you get one of the big the lion enemies. Yes. Oh god, they are brutal, aren't they? Yeah, that's one of those times where I will just run through an area and grab stuff and jump away, and I'm fine not bringing those runes back. Yeah. I probably didn't have many at the time anyways. Well, whenever you've always got to try and you've always got to explore every new area so cautiously. And if you get to an area like that, like it's a perfect example, you see, okay, I probably can't take out that enemy. Let's go back and spend as many runes as I can. Let's make sure I've got like 100 runes left in my inventory. Then it doesn't really matter if I die. I'll just beeline it through, grab the loot, and then it doesn't matter if I die. I've got the loot. I haven't lost any runes. I am never going back there again. Goodbye. That lion can go die a slow death. Die of old age for all I care. I don't need you. There's a few other weapons and things around here. The cane sword, the gargoyle's halberd. One thing that I am very sad that I miss is the gravelstone seal. It is amazing. Yeah, I still don't have it. Really? Fuck. Because I'm still not doing New Game Plus. I guess one of my other characters at this point probably has it, but she doesn't use seals. She's a sorceress, so she doesn't fuck with any of that Golden Order stuff. Right. But yeah, just some random Leyndell knight with a spear has it. This is if you want to do Dragon Cult incantations. It's got a plus 15%. My understanding it's a pretty dope seal, but I haven't used it. Well, I mean, so Dragon Cult incantations, to put it more simply, because the game loves to complex things and call it Dragon Cult, it basically just means lightning incantations. Any incantation that is lightning, it's going to make them deal 15% more damage. And lightning incantations, like when you spec right and you're late game, already do upwards of 1,000 damage. So, like, if you're hitting for 1,000 damage with one lightning spear, adding an extra 150 damage on top of that is massive. fun lore thing. You mentioned it's lightning, so I forget the name of the enemy in the river wells. The big guys that you fight, one on a horse and one up at the top. There's the Ainsel and the Schiefer River wells, like those big like half dragon enemies you fight.
Oh, the Dragonkin. The Dragonkin soldiers.
They were created using the mimic tier stuff by the ancient cities because they wanted their own dragons, but they use frost lightning because they can't use real lightning underground. So that's
really
a little bit. That's why they don't have real lightning, because they're also pale imitations, but they're underground. They also don't have access to, I guess, lightning down there. But that's why they use frost lightning instead.
Because you do acquire. Sorry to go off topic from the Royal Capital. We will come back to it very, very, very shortly.
No, go for it.
But there is a one of them Dragonkin soldiers in the Lake of Rot, and right by him, or it might even drop from him, you get a frost lightning katana, and it's one of my favorite weapons in the game because it looks so cool. And so that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing why that is, because that's awesome to know.
I don't remember people's names. I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I can remember a lot of bullshit though. You do have to climb up the dragon to get that door unlocked in Leyndell. You have to hit that one like switch to open the main door. But when you get behind there, you have this beautiful moment where you find the fortified manor, and it's all just deja vu everywhere. What happens when you find the fortified manor?
Oh my god! So my immediate thought, I instantly went back to my first time with Bloodborne, when you find the building in the Hunter's Dream, like in real life, and just so much speculation going through my mind of like is this the real is the Roundtable hold a dream version? Is it like trying to figure out the correlation between the two? Are they the same building? Is one a replica of the other? Like, it's just it raises so many questions.
And that's one of those things too, that as much as you want to go look into the lore, there is never just the answer given to you. And it's speculation, and that's the same with Bloodborne. The Roundtable hold is very much the same as the Fortified Manor. The Fortified Manor exists, it is in a real world, but I imagine the Roundtable hold, it's way off the map on the corner, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I imagine it's created as a place for the Tarnished to go. It might be kind of like an afterlife between realms, like a purgatory spot. I don't want to imagine myself at every site of grace killing myself before I go to the Roundtable hold. It might be what happens, though. I'm not sure. Yeah, the Roundtable hold, though, it's very exciting to not only find it, but also there's some dope items in here. There's some cool lore stuff.
I mean, that I like you said, it's purely speculation, and it's very fun to theorize. And that one particular train of thought that you had just then is very akin to teleportation in Star Trek. That's exactly what they do. Essentially, is they kill themselves, and they remolecularize in the new location as a new them, which is just crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Christopher Nolan film, The Prestige, where they make a clone of each other. Are you the one that gets teleported, or are you the one that stays back?
Yeah.
We are killing ourselves in these teleporters, people. Don't use teleporters. Just, it's not worth the risk. No. Take the long way. It'll be fine.
But sorry, as you say, there are so many amazing items in the Fortified Manor.
Yeah, and it's just fun, too. Just you don't know what to expect because you've been in these rooms before many times, and it's fun going around the corners. And also, if you find this item in this room, how does it link back to the Roundtable hold? What lore is interconnected there? And the first thing that can happen is you can be fighting the errant sorcerer Willem and Vagrim the Raging Wolf. This is part of the Volcano Manor quest line. You'll be sent there. This is where you get the Raging Wolf set of armor. And Alberic set as well. I believe you get both of those. There's one of the paintings. You get the fire deadly sin incantation, which we will be committing a sin pretty soon. But yeah, what was some of your favorite things you found in the fortified manor?
Well, so talking of the paintings, I must admit, I found them puzzles so finicky. I always ended up searching the exact spot you need to stand at to make them bloody painters appear, because I really struggled to match up the painting with the world. I hated doing them.
The one in Caelid is particularly tough, where you have to go down to find the spot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spots in Caelid where, all right, jump down, don't die. A lot of precarious jumps to get whatever one item you might need down there. Yeah.
But yeah, two items that do stick out for me in the fortified manor. I've always been a huge advocate of faith builds ever since Dark Souls 2, ironically, the one that not many people like that much, but I loved my lightning build in Dark Souls 2. So getting the what's the name of the weapon again? The coded sword, that's the one. The fact that has literally 0 stat requirements, an S scaling in faith, and is unblockable. Shields don't do anything against it. It's awesome.
I did not know it was S scaling in faith. That is insane.
It's
and there's no requirements.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Crazy.
Oh,
it deals very, very pathetic poise damage, so it's not great against big beefy enemies or really for PvP. But because of the unblockable blade and because of the stat requirements and the faith scaling, it fits with so many different builds. It's amazing.
And not blocking. You can't block it. That's a pretty big thing. And that unique skill where you lengthen the sword and do that big sweep attack, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, you get the Two Fingers prayer book here. You can learn some like Lord's Heal, Lord's Aid. Right by where our smithing master is the sanctified wet blade. Lots of stuff. You've been possibly around Leyndell finding some seedbed curses too, which are essentially corpses that the Dung Eater has fucked with. And you'll need this for another quest that we're not talking about today. But have you done much with PvP at all in this game?
No, up until the Colosseum update, I had done 0 with PvP, aside from invading people's worlds and then immediately getting myself killed for White Mask Varys questline.
I'll do it for Vary, but that's the only time that I ever fucked around.
But yeah, now that the Colosseum update has come out, I've tried a little bit, and I want to do more. I really do, because I feel like if you get good at PvP, the rush must be incredible. I feel like PvPers that know what they're doing, it must feel so cool. But that's not me. I suck. I lose every single duel.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're going into PvP, there are builds and characters that even the creators of the game, they didn't consider. People are out there doing some bonkers weird shit.
Yeah.
And I haven't really gotten into PvP at all. I've been bogged down with some other games in the past couple months here, but I really do want to spend time in the Colosseums and get good, as the kids say. But I'm not even sure how it works. Is it like a matchmaking in there?
Oh, yeah. So you the 3 different Colosseums each unlock 3 different types of battles. Some of them are shared over the Colosseums, but there's still variations. Once you've unlocked them, you can then access them all via the Roundtable in the Roundtable hold. There's a little statue off by the fireplace. And yeah, you basically have 1v1s, 3v3s, and free-for-alls, which I believe consist of 4 or 6 players for the free-for-alls.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can put in, just like you would for your multiplayer, for your group passwords, so that you can like interact with people of the same community. You can put in passwords so that you can compete with with people. So like if you want to make sure you're playing with your friends, Dom's Roundtable, we have the password knights, all caps knights. And so then you put that password in and you're more likely to be paired with other knights.
Cool.
Yeah, so the matchmaking is... I don't know if there is any skill-based matchmaking in place at the moment. I don't think so. I think it's purely random. You might go against a god. You might go against an absolute scrub. The only way to manipulate that is through the use of these passwords.
That's a shame. I think that there is something that... There is a system that they could put into place that would be huge, like a ranking system.
Definitely.
It's probably not what they're going for. No. I will never question Miyazaki. He knows what he's doing, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that because as a novice, I'd love to go up against other novices.
Someone of your own skill base instead of, all right,
exactly.
Here's some monster who's going to toy with me like I'm his food before they ultimately violently kill me.
Yeah.
Which has happened many times to me. So the Colosseum is there. If you want to head up that way, you will need to head towards the Colosseum to at least get to where we're going. But there's a couple of items up there. The Ritual Shield Talisman, which I don't think would be that useful, reduces damage by 30% when your HP is maximum. You could take one good hit, but then your talisman is not
exactly
useful.
That's it. Yeah, it's
I guess
it's kind of redundant.
If you're doing like a one-shot build or something, glass cannon perhaps, but there's a Starfist as well. I've never really been much for the melee weapons, fist weapons, I should say. Yeah, but there are a bunch of branches, and it's one of those moments that happen all the time in these games where I'm not sure if I'm going the right way. I just feel like I'll just keep going, and I guess there are enemies up here, so it must be fine. But this takes you all the way up to the Erd Tree Sanctuary for a big old boss battle. And we fight Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, a phantom version of this fella. This is Marika's husband. This is the father of some of the demigods, but it's just he's a big brawler. He doesn't have a lot of magic attacks he's using. He's pretty much just, it's a good old fight to the death.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy. Do some dodges, get some good hits in. Did you have any trouble with Godfrey?
Depending on the build, my first couple of runs, no, not at all. Then when I started to try and get a bit more creative with my builds, rather than just purely focusing on like damage output, then he did give me a little bit of trouble. But I love this fight. The soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack for the whole game is amazing, but this fight in particular has an absolute god tier song. I literally let this fight drag out as long as possible just so I could hear the whole score. It's amazing.
Yeah, the score is one of those things you don't really notice in these games often either.
No, you're too focused, aren't you? It's hard to pay attention to it without dying.
But then when you I went and put them on after the fact.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh yes, of course.
Yeah,
it's you're scarred, but you don't know why. A little bit. Yeah, Godfrey's great. This is actually not Godfrey. This is a phantom. This was created by Morgott. If you notice, he has the same like gold yellow effect that all of Morgott's weapons that he uses has. The throwing knives, the spear, and the great hammer. So this is a projection created by Morgott. He was trying to imagine what would be the scariest thing for Tarnished to run into. And that is why you run into Godfrey here. A phantom version. This is just a weapon created by Morgott, not actually Godfrey, who we will fight later under his name Horalu.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually didn't know that. I'm really curious. I'm really interested to know how people found that out. Like what item description or what enemy Obviously, apart from the obvious that he looks like the other weapons created by Morgoth. If there is definitive...
I think that's primarily... I've read a handful of lore descriptions, but they're not on a physical item or anything.
No,
but I think that it's enough that it's that he's there, the same effect as Morgoth's weapons.
Yeah,
and also Horaloo shows up in physical form later. But this is not definitive. There are multiple times you fight enemies and prior versions of them. I'm thinking of Vike, the fingerprint.
Yes.
Who has a great story, was going to be, I think he was like the number one soldier. He's going to be possibly Elden Lord, but he became obsessed with saving his maiden and was convinced to get the frenzied flame, and that's why he turned evil. And you can find his armor with all the burns on it because he embraced the frenzied flame. But you can fight two versions of him. One time when he's still just a good guy, and one time after he listened to too much emo music or something. Whatever it might be. I can say that as someone who has listened to much emo music.
Oh, same. Love it.
Yeah. But the Erdtree Sanctuary is a little confusing at first, too, once you defeat Godfrey. Because you see that item that's just hanging overhead, and I want it. I want it. Yeah. And I spent a fair amount of time jumping around before I figured out how to get up there. It's one of those situations where I wasn't sure if I would come back to it or I'd get somewhere else and it would come down. But,
you need to pull a lever to like lower it down to you or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I must admit, to this day, every time I defeat Godfrey, walk up the branch outside of the building to the top floor and see that item, I still to this day always forget the normal way to walk to it. I always jump onto the railing just to the left of you and then do the trick jump onto the tree branch. Yeah. Every single time I do that. And then I'll run out the normal way. And I'll try and remember, okay, I'm now doing the route in reverse. I'm running out the way I should have come in, and I'll try and remember that route. I'll forget it, and I will do the balcony trick jump every single time.
Yeah, and then you go and watch a video afterwards, and you see somebody just walk around the other way.
Walk around it, yeah.
I'm like, I spent an hour doing one of my trick jumps. If you head down from the sanctuary, you can get the Bolt of Grandsax, which is actually up on the stone dragon's giant like weapon is still in the ground. You actually go up the weapon to grab it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I wanted to comment on that at the start. Like you said, when you see Grandsax, when you see the corpse of Grandsax and his giant spear thrust into like the ground and the side of the buildings, the fact that you get to scale that and literally acquire a piece of that weapon for yourself is so freaking cool. And so much. Like one of, I think maybe the only truly missable legendary item in the game. So definitely, if you are going to miss every single item in this area and only grab one, it must be this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very fun moment when you see the little item thing up on the spear.
Yeah.
Because you realize I do get to go up there.
Yes.
And the item that was hanging up before that we mentioned, that is the Golden Order Principa. I don't know why they're keeping their prayer book up in the rafters. That seems like something you'd tuck into hotel dresser drawers or something. Yeah. Everybody, please read the holy book of the Golden Order Principa. But it has two spells, this prayer book. One is Radagon's Rings of Light, which is cool. I guess it was a gift to Mikola from Radagon. Great, fine. But the one that matters most is the Law of Regression.
Yes.
This one heals all negative statuses, dispels special effects, and that's all cool, but this will be required to get one of the endings of the game.
Yes.
And I remember this is one of the moments where I went online at this point because I was like, already at the end of the game, how do we get the other endings? And they said you need to have a certain spell and stand in front of a certain statue and use the spell. And I said, how the fuck would anybody know this? But there's a few ways.
Yeah, like there is like you were talking about the fact that players will lay down notes, but there are some notes that are already there set by the developers, and there is a note that will give it away somewhat by talking about regression. And obviously, NPCs that are also we will have passed in the capital at this point that we haven't spoken about yet. Corrin and Goldmask are also here, puzzled and stumped and doing nothing right now.
I like to imagine Goldmask is very annoyed by Corrin. He's just trying to study, and this guy comes up like, I love you, man. You're cool. I'm literally studying right now. Can you please give me a little space? I'm in my underwear, pointing at this tree, trying to get my study on. Yeah, and also Muriel will explain, if you go question Muriel, old Turtle Pope, about Radagon, he mentioned specifically, yes. I heard that there was a statue or something, but that's there. If you keep going further up, you'll find the Queen's bedchamber. Scattered along the way are a bunch of the Finger Maiden crones, and they're dead. Their bodies are just lying on the ground here.
Yeah.
And I'm not even... at this point, I said, I don't care. They're dead. They were here. I don't need to know why. And there's a black knife...
And then you find out why.
And then there's a black... Yes, there's a black knife assassin just chilling there. This one's not too tough, though, compared to the other ones.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, this one can be incredibly cheesed. You can just run into the room behind her, past the site of grace.
I've heard about this.
Jump up onto the table or whatever it is.
It's a bed.
Of course it is. Of course it is, because it's the Queen's bedchamber. Yeah. Jump on the bed, and she can't get up there, and you just throw lightning spears at her.
I love it so much. Get off of that bed. Fuck you. I'm not coming down. I forgot that you could do that. That is great. Just jump on the bed. The bed is safe.
The best strat in any video game, jump on the bed.
And then we get to the final boss of this dungeon area. We're going to get to Morgott. We talked a little bit about his lore. We covered most of it, but essentially, though, when the shattering happened, when Marika went missing, Morgott somehow got out of the sewers, and he took up the defense of Leyndell. And Morgott was trapped, treated like shit all of his life. And at this point, he emerges. He knows Omen wouldn't be accepted, so he's a veiled monarch. He rules from up above. He never really reveals himself. And he did want to become Elden Lord, but he's blocked out as well. So he decides, I'm just guarding the tree, and I will do everything I can to stop the Tarnished. That's why he puts on the disguise of Margit, which is literally his fucking face. It's his normal self.
Yeah.
But Margit's protecting Stormveil to prevent Godric from getting more Tarnished for his body, and from Tarnished defeating Godric because he's the easiest demigod. And Margit also is responsible for the Knight's Cavalry. All of those enemies are his Nazgul that he sent out. Mm-hmm. But Morgott has taken up command here. You can summon 2 different NPCs. Probably the coolest NPCs you can summon for a boss battle.
100%. I mean, before we move on to the NPC summons, I'm so glad you referred to them as the Nazgul. Honestly, my favorite bit of lore about Morgott isn't even about Morgott. It's about his Knights Cavalry. I adore this enemy. They are the coolest, most badass enemy in the game. Yeah. And they are so much a reference to Lord of the Rings that in the game's files, they are referred to as the Nazgul.
I did not know that.
It's one of the data miners, I believe it was Lance, what's his full name? Lance McDonald, found that they are literally referred to as the 9 Nazgul in the game's files.
That's fantastic. Well,
it's awesome.
There's 9 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's amazing. They're so cool. I did a whole video on their lore and their purpose. And even when you fight Morgott in the guise as Margit at Stormveil Castle, he mentions about, I can't remember the exact words, but he hints that his Knights Cavalry are now coming after you. You've pissed him off. The Knights Cavalry are now gonna get you, and it's so cool.
Get the ring out of Hobbiton. They're coming. Yeah, he mentioned something about be careful at night or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, but you can summon the Dung Eater, as an NPC. If you have freed him from the dungeons, you have to do a fair bit to do that. The Dung Eater quest is something I haven't fully got to experience because there's also a way to get the Dung Eater turned into a puppet, which I really want.
It's the only thing that is devastating about that is you then can't do his quest line, so you can't get his weapon and you can't get his armor set. It's either you have him as a summon or you get to do his quest line. And I love his quest line so much that I always give up the summon.
Well, New Game Plus, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, true.
I will absolutely. And then you'll always have the Dung Eater in your pocket. Mm-hmm. But you can also summon Melina, and this is really unique because this is the only time you get to see Melina outside of, her sitting by the fire with you, by the Grace. It's cool seeing her move around and be a character. She
is awesome. She is probably the most badass summon in the game. She's got some incredibly cool moves. And Morgott is not to be trifled with. I mean, Margit being the first main boss that most players are gonna probably encounter is already a real trial by fire. And it's like, take Margit, triple his health, triple his attack, give him an extra move set and an even harder phase 2. Good luck.
Oh man. Yeah, this was a major roadblock for me as well. This is one of the bosses where I got there and I said, okay, I think I could go do something somewhere else. I probably went back under. Fuck it, I'll go to the sewers then. Yeah. And then you go down there, you run into Moog, and you're like, God damn it. Your twin brother's down here fucking me up too. But yeah, this is a fun boss battle. The Margit Shackle does work here. And the second phase of the battle is where it really turns up to not only do you force Morgott to do this, but he is so ashamed by being an omen that he doesn't want to use like his curse powers, but you force him to, and he gets super mad because he's like, I will destroy you for like sullying the throne.
Yes.
Because he doesn't want to use his omen power. So he takes his sword and like snaps it, and he reveals like the cursed power, like his cursed blood is infused into his weapon, and just wicked stuff.
It really is.
As far as demigods that I think probably aren't all bad, he seems to have a few more redeeming qualities. He's trying to be, he's not eating gods or anything.
True.
Yeah.
Like you say, okay. he's annoyed at having to do that. He didn't want to. He was trying to retain some kind of humanity and honor almost. But
sorry, we're going to kill you.
Yep.
As everything else in the game. Yeah, there's a really cool scene too before the battle where he is showing the chairs, like little ghost chairs for all of the for all of the different demigods, and I think it's just really nice to see it laid out too, because if your finger's not on the pulse of the lore, it's easy to forget. But to hear him say like all of the different demigods in order, I thought that was a really nice moment.
You know what? I forgot that cutscene even existed, and that's it's a really powerful cutscene. Because obviously, after a couple of playthroughs of the game, you're skipping the cutscenes because you desperately want to get your character to be the most powerful. Once you know all of the main story and you've seen the cutscenes a few times, your focus then is the gameplay and getting good. So yeah, I'd completely forgotten exactly how powerful and awesome that cutscene is.
And here you are fighting the final boss of the game.
Yeah.
And you finally beat him. And something happens to his corpse, which is really interesting. When a demigod perishes, their body is so much smaller.
Yes.
It's very odd because you also see Ronnie's corpse. And not only is she not blue or four-armed, she's got red hair and she's just like a fragile looking little thing. And the same goes with Morgott, and his horns are even gone. It's just like a normal looking corpse with his face, but like missing the horns. And he says something, he says like, you're not going to get through regardless. We're all forsaken. But yeah, the Erd tree is sealed. It's got thorns covering it. So Melina says, okay, we got to we got to burn the fucker down.
And I was so happy at that point, because when you do first enter into the Royal Capital and Melena's like, okay, cool, thank you for getting me here, bye. I was heartbroken. I was like, no, you're so awesome. Please don't leave me. So the fact that your quest gets to continue and she rejoins you, he's like, yes, let's do this. And Melena's back. There's more game to come. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, it feels like part 2 of the game or something too.
Yes. If it was a TV series, that would be a perfect mid-season pause.
Yeah, season 3.
Yeah.
Coming next year. Because it is a cliffhanger. It's the end of Empire Strikes Back. It's we have something we got to do here, and we're gonna have to burn the Erd Tree. You get the remembrance of the Omen King and Morgoth's Great Rune.
Oh, which gives you one of my favorite weapons. Morgoth's Cursed Sword is just so fun to use. It took me way too long to realize that has a follow-up attack, and then it can do two slices, not just the one.
I had no idea. There's two. I don't have time to use all 110 weapons. I get really upset at myself when I hear about these cool things, because you think you found, I have 3 weapons I like to use, and then so the Cursed Sword is great, you're saying.
Yeah.
Now I have to play again.
There are too many awesome weapons. It's amazing, especially after... actually, I believe this is one of the few weapons that did this before the most recent patch. But patch 107 or 108, there was lots of abilities and lots of Ashes of War, where they would... The weapon, physically, the animation would slash, and then it would release either a beam of light or a blood slice or whatever, and the slash itself didn't actually deal any damage. I believe Morgoth's Cursed Sword was one of the few that did, but I'm glad they've now patched that, so all weapons that have a visual animation like that now has a hitbox and will deal additional damage. And this, the fact that you can do that twice in a row, you've basically got 4 attacks in a very short space of time, all dealing like huge amounts of poise damage, plus the Curse Blood, which I believe also is fire damage. It's the whole package. It's amazing.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're here at the end of the Royal Capital. Did you have any other thoughts on this area?
Honestly, so many. I could go on for hours more. I truly could. I don't have enough good things to say about the game, and specifically this area. Like I said at the start, I skipped half of my own goddamn guide to get to the capital quicker, because I wanted people to be able to experience how amazing this is as soon as possible. And we've only just scratched the surface. Obviously, we don't have time in this episode, but then you come back and visit this later. You've got the shunning grounds, like the underground. You've got so many quests that you can come back here and continue at later points in the game as well. It is just endless. It's amazing.
Well, Dom, thank you so much for joining us today. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. Watched not all of your videos. I am a completionist, though, so eventually I will be able to watch all of them. But you put out great content. Thanks for being generous with your time. And if our listeners wanted to check out your channel or to follow you, where could they do that?
Thank you. I am at Dom's Roundtable pretty much everywhere. All of the easiest thing for me to do is say head to the YouTube, because that's where most of the content is, and in the about or in the description of any of my videos is going to be all the links to all my other stuff. If you're a Twitterer or a Discord user or any other of the social medias that we now have to deal with on a daily basis as being part of the modern world.
So check it out. You're going to love it. And we're Elden Dogs. We're part of Hair the Dogcast. If you have any questions or thoughts about this, you can tweet at us at HotDogcast. You can find us at hairthedogcast@gmail.com. And if you feel like supporting us, we're on patreon.com/hairthedogcast. There's a lot of bonus content, extra episodes, things early. And special thanks to executive producers Ryan Christianick, Tyler Keller, Kip, and Brian Ward. Your support is appreciated. Dom, would you have maybe another 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're going to do a quick bonus episode for our Patreon members where we can talk about whatever we want, probably a little bit more Elden Ring and some stuff about being badass YouTuber, because I don't know nothing about that, but this guy knows a ton. So we're going to do a quick Doggies After Dark. If you want access to that, check out our Patreon. Thanks again, Dom, and thanks to you for listening.
I'm going to say, before we finish the episode, thank you. I haven't thanked you yet. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been, for anyone that didn't know, this has been my first ever podcast experience. I was terrified, and Brad has made it so chill and so seamless. It's been amazing. Thank you.
All right, we'll see everybody next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.